So I just beat the demo of the First Berserker Khazan, a highly anticipated and extremely excited game that is coming out in the end of March of this year. Now, I've heard about this game quite a bit, as you've probably seen the trailer or you've seen things about it, but we finally got our hands on a free-to-play demo, which is available right now, which you can go play on Steam. I want to talk a little bit about this game, the things I'm excited about, the limited things I'm concerned about, and just my overall vibe of the entire game. So as previously mentioned, this is a demo for the full release of the game, which comes out March 27th, 2025. And something I just want to commend the developers and the creators of this game is that this demo is not a little taste of what you can expect. I think so many games nowadays release demos. They call them demos, but they're just sort of early access parts of the game. No, this is just the first part of the game. In fact, when you get to the end of this part, when you get to the end of the demo, it tells you that if you played this demo and then buy the full game, you won't have to replay this. It'll just carry over into that part of the game. So I think that's really cool that we're not really playing a early access version of the game. We are playing the first part of the full release of the game. And let me be honest with you, this game sets its hooks into you quickly and pulls you into this game fast. I was immediately into this game. I bought the story. I bought the look of the game. I mean, just look at this. This game looks incredible. It feels incredible. There is so much promise for a game like this. I'm really excited to see what the full release will look like. But I want to talk a little bit more of the gameplay itself. This won't be a fully in-depth review of the game, as we only got a limited amount of time to play this game. I estimated and clocked it in around 2.5 hours. I've watched other people play the demo. It's sitting right around that 2.5 to 3 hour timeline. If you wanted to play more of, I guess, exploration style or try to find Easter eggs, hidden things, you could probably stretch it into a 4-hour experience. But I think for the average player, the person who has played a game like this before, you'll be thoroughly enjoying your time for about 2.5 hours. So one of the first things you'll notice about this game is that it looks awesome. I don't know what exactly art style you want to call this, maybe anime. It really kind of gives you that Telltale vibes type of game. It is the furthest thing from that game, but the art style kind of looks like that. And I think it's really unique, and something that I want to express to people who might have a concern about fighting a game like this is that I never noticed the art style when I was fighting. For example, like when I'm walking around the area, it looks so cool and it looks like I'm actually playing in a page on an anime, manga. But when I'm fighting, it feels like it's just a video game. It definitely feels like I'm not. The best comparison I can make it is if you ever played like Guilty Gear or Grand Blue Versus, where those games look a certain way, but when you're actually the one controlling what's going on, it feels much more fluid than what you would imagine it feels like. So if you're on the fence of this game because of how it looks, hopefully that can help you kind of ease your thought process into it. Now, there is a lot that we can do in this game, or in this short demo. Like I mentioned, this is not a designed demo. This is just the early part of the game. I feel like that's what it is. There might be things that are different when the full game is released, but I don't think they would have that message at the end of the game saying that this character will just continue when you buy the full game. There's a lot of consumables. There's a lot of different things you can pick up and use throughout your entire play. There was one time where I lit my swords on fire. I didn't really notice much fire damage, or I didn't notice the enemies catching on fire, but I did only do it once, and so I'm not sure if that's something that will be added later, or if it's just a visual for us and then it just does more damage to the enemies when you attack them. And speaking of attacking enemies, something that is also not like any other Souls-like or Bloodborne, Sekiro copycat out there is that the combat in this game, you actually use your face buttons to attack. If you're on PlayStation, which is what I used for this game, it's the X is the light attack and the triangle are the heavy attack. That is something that really felt a little different at the start, but I mean, 5 minutes into the combat and it felt very fluid and normal. And they obviously did that for a reason, because you'll use your bumpers for special attacks and things like that later. Now, another interesting thing about the combat in this game is that it is very much like Sekiro, where it is heavily implied that the way you're going to beat your enemies is with posture checking them and with stamina management and with the proper technique of parrying. Now, that is something that is not really prominent in a lot of, Dark Souls games. I did previously mention Sekiro, but that was a unique in its own experience type of game. And so that's what I think this game is closest to. I would not call this game close to any of the other Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, anything like that. The closest it would be in my mind is Sekiro, and simply for the fact that it's a stamina management parry heavy game rather than a dodge. Now, you do have the ability to dodge, and dodging does actually, a perfect dodge works like a perfect parry, where it gives you a small window to attack your enemy after dodging perfectly. And I do think that is cool. I think there's a lot of things that are going to be able to create cool combat and cool combos, and there's a ton of kill expression in this game. I do somewhat worry if there is almost too much of it. But that will kind of be covered a little bit later when I talk about my fears for the game when it's full release. But there's just a lot of different things and ways you can combat and attack your enemies in this game. The other thing about this game I really liked is that although you are only seemingly going to have to pick between one of 3 types of weapons in the game, they all feel incredibly different. They all feel incredibly unique, and they feel like their own play style, which will be something that I think a lot of people are going to find replayability, and I think a lot of people will enjoy their time. So long as they do change one detail, which will be my biggest worry for this game, which is what we'll talk about right now. So throughout this demo, there are, I think, 2 bosses that you fight. There's one that closes out the demo, and then there's one a little bit towards the beginning of the demo. Both are incredibly fun and enjoyable. The first boss was this big Yeti that you have to fight that I died to, and then immediately found out that his backside is his weak side. He has these like crystals in his back, which if you attack those, they do more posture damage and more just physical damage to the enemy, which was kind of cool. But the fear I had for both of them, which is after thinking about it for about 12 hours since I beat the demo, is kind of still reigning in my head, is that they really kind of felt more like health sponges, I guess, than they did, challenge and boss battles. Now, there's a fine line to balance when you're trying to create these types of bosses, and I'm not critiquing as if I could do it better. I just, from a consumer, and again, I don't know if it's because I've been playing this style of game for a decade at this point, but it definitely feels like the hardest part of the battle was the amount of health the boss had rather than the attack patterns and things like that. I would substitute a bigger health pool if I could get one shot, if that makes sense. That's just my opinion on these bosses. I would rather learn how to parry and dodge their attacks, and then if they did attack me, I would just die in that one attack rather than it take them 3 or 4 hits to kill me when I am quickly within 2 tries already learned their entire pattern. I really want to say this is the cons section of the game, because I don't want to put too many cons in a demo, as there's still plenty of time for them to change some of these things, but there are concerns I have for the game, and nothing concerns me more for this game than the ability to refund your skill points that you get to spend. Now, you do have 3 different weapons, and you have a bunch of skills that you can learn on each weapon. However, you can at any time refund the ones that you've spent and spent them in other areas. Now, my worry for this is that it's going to allow players to just change their playstyle at any given moment to then mold it towards a boss fight. Case in point, within this demo, when I was going to the final boss fight, I just took out all my skill points in the fast quick attack weapons and put them into the big heavy slow weapon. And so in that moment, in the same playthrough, I was able to completely change my playstyle. And changing your playstyle is not something that is drastically different than any of these other games in this genre. It is something that is becoming more prevalent. I just think it really devalues the replayability, and perhaps the developers are not thinking about this game from a replayable side. Perhaps they just want it to be a pure enjoyment, or they want you to be able to change your play style at any given moment. But for me, where I was able to just change my play style completely and make the boss fight that much easier, I feel like that is almost not it's sort of dumbing down the process of building your class in a game like this, because you want to make mistakes of spending all your points in heavy attacks but then having no defense, or all your quick attacks but then not being able to do that one punishing blow when the boss has a quarter HP left. So that's the biggest worry I have for the game, which in the scope of a video game, if that's your biggest concern, you're on the right track to a very good successful game. But overall, that's just my quick thoughts of the demo. Overall, if I had to rate the demo, I give it about an 8. I mean, it's right there. It is solid. I think honestly, if the skill point wasn't there, the game would be so much, it would be probably a 10. It'd be a perfect demo to me. I'm very concerned that you'll be able to just change whatever you want whenever you want and make the game a lot easier than it should be, or that I think it could be. I want that challenge. I don't play these games to be able to take an easy way out. I play these games for a challenge. But did you play the demo? What did you think of the demo? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you share some of my positive praises or my concerns about the game? I'd love to know what your guys' feedback and opinion is. And let me know if you'll be buying this game when it drops on March 27th, 2025.